Hi, Rich Hoffman here. So in regard to Trump doing what he should not have done, and that is reclassify marijuana to a category 3 drug from a category 1, opening up medical marijuana use, and on the surface it all sounds hunky-dory and fine, and for people who don't really pay attention to these things, medical marijuana might sound like a good idea. Cancer treatments, people feel less pain, improves their quality of life as they're in a declining condition, and all that kind of stuff. There's a real problem with marijuana, the plant itself. And I would argue that there's occult problems with it. The plant itself, I would embody as the work of absolute evil. And that's not just to go down a theologic path or just a raw morality issue. Marijuana is a dangerous drug, always has been. The plant itself, you always have the gateway folks that are trying to say, hey, make it legal. It has use for rope. It has medical applications you can apply. We'll think about all those poor senior people that have chronic pain. There's lots of ways to deal with pain, whole lot of ways. And we've done quite well not having hemp as part of our life as much as possible. There's lots of ways to make different materials to utilize the tools we need in life. And my argument perpetually on pot, on all things related to marijuana, the marijuana leaf itself, the plant as it grows in nature. If you think of the cellular makeup of all the forms of biology that exists in human form or plant form, however it presents itself. The marijuana plant is evil. It is a beacon for evil, and it has an occult reason for wanting to be in our society. And I can talk about that, and I could write about it in books and books and books, but for the purpose of Trump's position on it, reclassifying, trying to appeal to all those lefties that are Democrats that have entered the Republican Party, and him trying to appeal to them. He said at his press conference that this is like an 85% approval issue. 85% of people out there want it. There's a lot of people who don't really understand the dangers of marijuana, who sat around when they were a teenager smoking dope to the Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon album and thinking, well, I did it, I'm okay. No, you're probably not okay. You're actually probably pretty stupid. And I'm pretty angry about the matter, and I don't mind being a little blunt about it, but people who have used pot and justify pot tend to not be very intelligent. And if there's only 15% of the population or 1% of the population that gets it, those are the people you ought to listen to. And all the rest of the compromised people out there that have used it, justified it in their own minds, and think that it's okay to implement it in your society, even in the form of medicinal use, they're out of their minds, wrong, and they're tools of evil incarnate. And how deeply do I feel about this? Let me explain for some context in my own life. I've had a hard line on drugs since my first conscious moments. Whatever that means. It's not that I was trained to not like drugs. I was born that way. Even for my own parents and my own position and my own family, I've always been excessively anti-drug. I mean, as a kindergartner, I was anti-drug, and I went through a very violent time in my childhood, being against drugs, because there's a lot of chances for kids to try and oppose themselves on other kids by getting them to share drugs together or talk about drugs together, make light of drugs together. I never liked the Cheech and Chong movies. I would always take a hard line when people would try to mimic Cheech and Chong as kids. I've always been anti-drug, and as I got older, and I had justified data to support my anger towards it, I've only become more so. This is a position with me that, just to give a context to things, I wasn't an out of place nerd when it came to run around in social circles. There was a period where I had a nice apartment right out of graduated high school, in kind of those pre-college days, that time period. And I moved into an apartment with some of my best friends, and we had an ideal dream bachelor pad. Now, all during our time, and we were considered by many to be the most ruthless and crazy, wild kids that there ever was. Did all kinds of things that parents absolutely heard my name and they hated me for a whole bunch of reasons. But I was a very rebellious young person, and lived a very dangerous lifestyle, and a lot of people wonder how I was even alive. And so I was kind of the leader of the pack on this group that we had, and so we had this bachelor pad, and people have connotations of what that means. Went to all the concerts and all the music things, and ran around with a lot of different people out there, and people have an association with what that entails. Well, let me just tell you something. With all that said, I was excessively anti-drug. Never did drugs, never let people do drugs around me. And in fact, I had probably the nicest car out of everybody that I ran around with back then. And I had a little sticker or a pin that I kept in my car saying, "Thank you for not smoking," which people would normally associate with being an excessive geek, way out of touch. Every girl you meet was smoking at the time. So how do you have this kind of lifestyle and not do drugs or not smoke or mimic your favorite rock band? And I just didn't, and I didn't let anybody around me do it. So all the parents that hated me so bad, they'd rather their kids run around with a bunch of druggies than run around with rebellious Rich Hoffman. That was their position. And most of the kids, when the parents drove them away from me, instantly fell to drugs or got involved with drugs. And when they were around me, they didn't do drugs. Nobody did. And so we were at this bachelor pad, and I met a really nice young girl, very sweet, very pretty, and I knew she was one to invest in. And we just got into this bachelor pad. So my friends were pretty upset that I was getting serious with her. I ended up marrying her, ended up becoming my wife. So I was going in that direction, and they wanted me to keep filling up the bachelor pad with fun and enticing elements of bachelor life. And so they were not happy with me going off with her. So they started hanging out together away from me, and I was with her, and they started doing drugs. And they never had done drugs up to that point around me, but suddenly they were. And then they were actually smoking dope in the apartment, our apartment. And I had a parakeet in my room, and I came home one night and smelled pot, was not happy that they were doing pot in a place where I lived. And I went in my room, and it was very strong. And what they had done is they had smoked a joint in my bedroom and blew the smoke onto my parakeet, which infuriated me very much so. And to tell you to what extent, I moved out immediately, found my own place, got my own place, left them, and never spoke. And we were all close. These are people that people typically in their life look up and talk to on Facebook 40 years later. Remember those days when we were teenagers and we did all these things and lived this kind of life? That's the kind of friends that these guys were. After that parakeet incident, I never spoke to a single one of them ever again. Ever again. That's how I am on marijuana. And the reason why I feel that way is because I tie it to occult entrances of evil into the human race. And I can prove it and talk about it in great detail. And a lot of these medical people that are out there advocating for it, they probably smoked a lot of dope when they were kids, and now they're medical professionals, and they don't see the harm in it, and they want to justify the dumb mistakes that they've made in their own past, and they think it's cute. They're a little bit left anyway. This is part of the danger of bringing Bobby Kennedy into the whole mix, because they're all Democrats, and they all are little dope smokers, and they want to justify their bad behavior by saying, well, there's medical uses, so it's good. You can make a rope out of the hemp. The plant itself is tied to occult evil as it exists in multi-dimensional realities. So the Indians were stupid for doing it. The Indians in North America, the Indians of Indian culture, not smart thing to do. Krishna consciousness, no, forget it. All the yoga, smoking dope, and doing yoga, and inviting all these nature into your life. None of that's any good. All of it has entailments of evil associated with it. So when we're talking about the anger of America endorsing this, and Trump doing what I advised everybody in the Republican Party don't get involved with, he was stupid. He got suckered, and he put all those medical people behind him, just like he did with COVID. Look, the smart people are telling me this is a good thing to do, so I'm signing an executive order, and I'm a president for everybody. And people don't like it. It polls at 85%, so tough toodles. Stupid. He got suckered. He got suckered the same way he got suckered with COVID, and it really, for me, it's a deal killer. It's a no-goer. You don't endorse the marijuana plant at all. You don't bring it into your society with medical use. What you do is you solve cancer. You just get people so they're not sick anymore. You don't make it so people don't feel the pain. You just get rid of the pain. You get rid of you make the treatment where it's solution-based, and not where you're taking some stupid evil chemical in order not to feel pain that's put on you in order to control society on a mass scale, which is what the whole cannabis thing is all about. And the spokesman for it. And Trump got suckered by it the same way he got suckered with COVID. And he put all the medical people behind him, like, look, all these smart people think is a good idea, so I'm going to sign an executive order. And they're all applauding him and massaging his ego, making him feel good because he did something no one else had the guts to do. Well, sometimes there's reasons why people didn't do it. And he's a business guy, and this is the downfall of him, is that he trusts people too often, and he got suckered. He got suckered on pot. I'm happy to see that Ohio is turning away from the legalization, because that's another sucker job. A lot of people will say, well, look, all these states, like over 40 states have it legalized in some form or another. So the federal government's just catching up to it. So Trump's, very enlightened in what he's trying to do. Well, the catch there is there's been a massive progressive movement to bring cannabis into legalization status any way possible, recreationally or through medicinal purposes, in order to get it flowing into human society for all kinds of, again, occult reasons. And I will prove that over a long period of time. It's not really time for it on this particular video, but over a subsequent series, I can certainly show why that's the case and how dangerous it really is. And it's a horrendous thing. It was a really stupid thing for him to do. And again, for me, it goes back to the parakeet in my bedroom. That's the kind of thing I just won't. I will paint people out of my life completely when they and put their arm around pot, because it's an evil product. It's an evil. Can a plant be an evil thing? Can any of these plants be evil? Well, some of them are very evil. Some of these weeds are excessively evil. There's evil everywhere. And marijuana is one of those evil plants. It's totally evil. So when you embrace that kind of thing and bring it into culture, I'm going to be very angry about it. And for me, that's a deal killer. Deal killer with Trump. And I've stood by him over everything up to this point. And this is one I can't. So he did that. He allowed himself to be a sucker and acted very stupidly on this issue, and he thinks it's cute and he's smart and he's listening to all these old hippie types, Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyders, Cheech and Chong fans that are trying to justify hemp any way they can get it. And he blew it, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm totally against it. I'm happy to see actually DeWine is more conservative than Trump in this case, because he just signed legislation walking back the Ohio legalization of marijuana and making it much more restrictive. And a lot of states will do the same thing. Federal government's not catching up to the states. The states were attacked by progressive impositions, and now they have to roll it all back. And all Trump did was playing the lag effect to the evil snake that Trump's always talking about in his rallies. Now he became the one that got bit by the snake because he listened to it, and he's like, why, oh why did you lie to me? Well, marijuana is the snake, and all those medical people behind you are trying to find another way to attach their lifestyle that's been attached to this evil, and they're trying to justify it, and they just got Trump to sign on to it. And they think it's cute and funny, and he thinks it's an 85% polling issue, and it's going to make him more popular with Democrats going into the midterms. And all it really did was take people like me, and they can say, well, I don't really care if he supports me or not. Well, I think when it's time for battle, you want people like me in your corner, and not all those stringy-haired hippies that were standing behind him in the Oval Office signing the executive order to declassify marijuana from a 1 to a 3. Bad move, stupid, and for me, it's the parakeet in the bedroom, and that means never again. That means I have to draw a line in the sand and say goodbye to all the support that I've done for Trump over the years. I've spent 10 years doing so, and now it's time for me to move on to something else, because that's a deal killer for me. Pot, under no form, no way, under any conditions, because you're putting your arm around evil in ways that have not been properly explored in human society up to this point. But nevertheless, once everybody understands the context of it, they'll feel pretty foolish for any relationship that they ever did have with cannabis, marijuana, the pot movement in general, because it made them all suckers and tools of evil in ways they never understood until it was too late. And that's why I feel the way I do about it. And Trump blew it. He was a sucker, and he blew it. That's on him. Anyway, it's Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you haven't read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.